Hey everyone, welcome to the Drone Responders Public Safety Drone Program interview series. I'm Charles Werner, the Drone Responders Director and Founder, and today we're going to be revisiting the incident that occurred with the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. And with me today, I have the honor of introducing Chief Drabik and Tim Weigle. And we're going to walk through and talk a little bit about what happened during the incident, how drones made a difference, and hear the story directly from them.
All right. So on the night of February 3rd at about 9 o'clock, our dispatch center received a call for a incident with the train, unsure if it was a derailment or a fire. My units responded, found a long train with various hazardous materials being hauled, had in fact derailed just at the edge of town, and with a pretty significant amount of fire involved. The first issue we had was being able to identify what cars were what and what products were contained in those cars. You couldn't identify anything on the cars. The way that they derailed, the amount of fire, you couldn't get close enough to see anything. And any placards that you may have been able to look at by binoculars, the placards were destroyed, whether by fire or by the derailment. So it was a very large scale incident. It was definitely overwhelming to our area. We ended up calling in that first night a total of 68 other fire departments from the tri-state area. We had just shy of 500 boots on the ground, men and women from the tri-state area trying to mitigate this incident. The drone aspect of this incident was amazing. I believe 100%, and I'll stand by it, it was the only way we were going to be able to identify these rail cars and what was in them. There was no other way to do it with the conditions we had. And we had to go back to the very basics. It was 9 degrees out that night. It was cold. So we had to put the drone up, and that was how we identified the cars. We went back to basics. Is it a pressurized or a non-pressurized car? If it's pressurized, then we know according to the consist it fits into here. Let's try and see if we can get any identification numbers off of it. And that took us several hours to do. We started the evacuation early. We knew that we had some products that were concerning. So we based our evacuation distance off of what we perceived to be the worst product we were dealing with, according to the ERG, and got everybody a safe distance. Ended up having to move the command post because we were within that 1 mile evacuation. But the drone just was an amazing asset to us up to today. We are still using them to fly over that whole scene and, document and check the progress of the cleanup and remediation.
I can see here that you also could identify not only the immediate incident that you were dealing with, but contamination and runoff and those things as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
So when you look back, comparatively speaking, how would this have been different had you not had a drone?
We would have had a significant delay. You couldn't get close enough to do a damage assessment on these things. The fire was too intense. And quite frankly, we didn't know what we were dealing with. So we had to identify each car individually, do a damage assessment on it, and determine our next course of action. And the only way we could do that was based off of the drone footage.
So you were looking at live video, correct?
Correct. As you saw in some of the videos that Tim's shown you, that the PRDs are actively going off. So that causes concern. Obviously, they're doing what they're designed to do. But at the same time, we can't get down in there and do anything because of that. And they were active almost the entire time, and being able to identify that some of those PRDs were in fact had malfunctioned and not able to work and do their job was a huge asset. Great safety being able to utilize the drone as opposed to sending somebody down there and putting them at risk.
Based on this experience, Chief, would you tell other fire departments that if they don't have drones, they ought to be getting some?
Absolutely, without a doubt. There's a caveat to that. You have to look at the size of the department, the budget of that department. If you have a good working relationship with your neighboring departments, there's no sense in duplication of efforts or duplication of equipment. And just to reiterate how useful this was, not only from the identification of the cars and being able to make sound judgments and decisions based on that, but we were able to survey the area around there for damage to the businesses and industry. Derailment, the origination of the derailment was directly behind a gas station that had, I believe it's 5 upright tanks filled with fuel.
Wow.
So we were able to ensure that we could check those areas and make sure that we didn't have anything actively going on there.
Tuesday, they had made the decision to go ahead and put the charges on the top and the bottom of the car and do what we called vent and burn. So that's where the drone was called back in again. They asked us to bring the drone over, and at that time, we were about 1,100 feet from where the cars were. And they just asked me to fly over where they had put the charges and make sure that they could see that they were lit. They went ahead and put the charges off, and that's when all the cars were charged, and they were vented on the bottom and discharged on the top, which that plume of fire was pretty good size. That video that I was actually taking is pretty devastating, pretty interesting.
The video we got from that was very, very valuable.
So you can see in the tops of the cars, you're seeing the cars all mashed together. You can see these yellow lines going on the tops of the cars. That is where the charges were placed.
How did they place those?
They crawled up on there and did it manually.
Absolutely the most dangerous part of this was those guys crawling around those cars. Yeah, and you got to remember, these cars, some of them still had an active PRD at times. There was no correlation to when those were going off, and they're very unpredictable.
Wow. And this is once they were activated?
Correct. This is once they were detonated, and if I'm not mistaken, Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know better. The fire that you're seeing on the right of the screen, closest to that blue building with the white roof, was the single car that was completely full, that the PRD was not functioning. The other one on the left was the other 4 cars that the PRDs had been working on off and on.
You really didn't have any anticipation of what this was going to be like until it happened.
Exactly.
And right in the middle of the fire, you see the white car partially burned. That's the benzene car that they were worried about.
Chuck and Charles, I'm very happy to tell you that throughout this entire incident, even till now, we've had 0 injuries. So there was almost 500 firemen there that night, and not even a twisted ankle. No buildings were damaged from this.
That's incredible.
And look at the proximity. We had guys force the door of that building you're looking at there and stretch hose line through it and put an unmanned monitor out that little man door to protect that building.
But clearly the drone made a big difference in the safety of your personnel.
Absolutely 100%. A huge impact. Not only for our guys, my guys' safety, the firefighters' safety, but let's be honest, it gave an advantage to the railroads people, their contractors, our federal partners, our state partners, everybody. We were kept a little bit safer because we were able to utilize the drone and its capabilities so well.
Well, like you said, understanding that whole PRD situation was, a decision point.
Right. Yeah. There were a couple times that I had went down there with some of the contractors to do an assessment of what was going on. Excuse me. And we started walking down the roadway in the area where that's burning there right there, obviously prior to them doing this. And we got down there, and we're down there maybe 30 seconds, and one of those PRDs activated. Made a couple of us about have to go change our drawers when we were done.
Where do you see your drone program going now as far as how you're going to be using it? Are you going to be more active? Is it going to be proactive on responses? What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be very active. You know, we're looking at changes. You know, we're gonna use it more than we're not going to use it. You know, as long as I have the manpower available, even a residential structure fire, being able to have that footage going and seeing that 3D picture of that building, that 360 view of it going all the time, as opposed to having to walk around the building, that's going to be very, very beneficial to us.
Well, I just want you to know that the Drone Responders has a great deal of resources, so please don't hesitate to contact me.
Absolutely, I will.
Well, listen, Chief, Tim, thank you all very much for sharing your experience, because I think this is going to have a huge impact on others to be able to understand that if you've got a railroad coming through your city, as well as the other incidents and hazmat things that can occur, drones have a great advantage of being able to show you things that you're not otherwise going to be able to see without really being in a lot of danger.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So thank you all for sharing that with us.
Get the drones in the air, use them. They're a lifesaver.